Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Robby Starbuck is a Magatardian who's Cuban, but he passes as white. And he starts to lean really heavily towards the anti-Islam rhetoric. His wife, I used to follow her, and then she started spouting nonsense about Islam. So I wanted to capture this post for you. Notice how he says, at any other time in history, if you told the men of Europe that 1,000 plus young, fit men from Islamic nations were coming to their shores uninvited, they would have seen it as an invasion and reacted accordingly. So what is he saying? They would have got swords and started shanking and dismembering and harming these people. The weak men in power now give them houses and welfare, insane weakness. So how does he want people to be strong? By acting how the old people did. And why? Simply because they're brown and from Islamic nations. Now, did he even verify where all these people are from? No. And I always find it so strange how countless people who are part of MAGA, they're never honest about what America has done in the Middle East and the history of the Middle East and the destabilization, the regime change wars from Gaddafi to Saddam Hussein, all of it. And I've taken time to learn, and it's a little bit, and it's so much history that you're like, this is a monumental task, and they don't teach you this in school, really. And imagine if we Americans or Europeans in general just took a second and thought, hey, what have we done to contribute to people wanting to move? And is it wrong for humans to want to migrate where there's jobs and stability? I've thought deeply about what the Bible says about immigration, how Islam views it, and it is peculiar that there's not enough children or elderly coming, but I do think those young men are more fit for the journey, and that's probably why that they're making these long treks to different nations. It's not something for the faint-hearted. And you can look this up. Just look at how the Magatards talked about women and children at the border when they would stand there and try to come in, and how vicious the MAGA people are towards immigrants in general, especially when they are not white. I've archived this plenty of times, but I'm going to start to create these playlists that you can search people up by their name so that you can reference it. Because a lot of people, they're not aware of the rhetoric that these Republicans spout. And I always look at how the hypocrisy resides in the Christian community here in America and somewhat in the UK, because the Bible doesn't say only care about the traveler and the immigrant if they are female, right? You gotta treat some people with respect. And if you look back at when the Italian and Irish came, there was nativist attitudes, but they were despised as well because they were coming from a different culture. It's only in this modern era that Italians are considered white. Again, this fixation of Muslim invaders and this dog whistling rhetoric and the split tongue rhetoric is really out in the open now. But again, they talk about this about Latino Catholics at the border in America, and now if you're brown and they don't even verify where you're from, they just automatically assume you're a Muslim and that you're coming to take over. Giving people shelter and food isn't weakness, and these people will contribute to the economy and they will reproduce. I've also made it abundantly clear they don't suffer from fertility issues as much as city people do. If you notice how many more women have to use IVF now to get pregnant, and how the sperm counts and testosterone are lower in Western men, you begin to see that the lifestyle that the Westerners live, it may be luxurious, but something biological is happening due to the pollution, the environment, and I do believe these countries recognize they have a medical problem and a medical crisis that they're not ready to tackle. So instead of fixing that, they go to the faster option, as most governments do, which is to allow immigration. And again, if you want these people to quote unquote assimilate, why can't you just go to them and be like, hey, here's food, here's shelter, okay, this is how we do things here, recycle this, get them incorporated. They're already coming to a new land. They don't know what's going to happen to them. Give them a chance. Just because they're men doesn't make them evil. This is kind of a feminist, feminist talking point if you think about it. They're inherently bad because they're men. Isn't that something? How do they know there's not Arab Christians in there? Or Christians at all in that crowd? They assume because you're brown and you're poor, you must be Muslim. Think about that. And then they automatically assume on top of that, you can't be a good person, you can't be productive, you can't be safe if you're Muslim. Very nefarious talking points from Robby Starbuck.